have a game, Ty-Laur Johnson. The freshman point guard made program history on Saturday night in Louisville's 101-92 victory over Florida State. On today's episode of the Locked on Louisville podcast, we're explaining why Johnson needs to be running the show for the team for the remainder of the year. That said, stay tuned.
You are Locked on Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked on Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. As always, I want to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked on Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Louisville freshman point guard Ty-Laur Johnson made program history on Saturday evening in the Louisville 101-92 victory over Florida State. He became the first player in the program to score at least 25 points and record at least 10 assists in a single game. He was absolutely spectacular, hands down. We're going to explain why he needs to be running the show at point guard for the Cardinals for the remainder of the year. We'll discuss what went right for the team in the victory over Florida State, a couple of key notable things to discuss. And also, to conclude the show, we will discuss a key ranked victory for the women's basketball team over Syracuse and how it leads into an absolutely brutal schedule for the month of February. We start out on the men's basketball side. Louisville got back in the win column with a 101-92 victory over the Florida State Seminoles at the KFC Yum Center on Saturday evening. A couple of key things that went right, a couple of things that didn't go so well, but a win is a win. The main thing from this game to take away was the spectacular performance from freshman point guard Ty-Laur Johnson. As I mentioned, he became the first player in program history to score at least 25 points and record at least 10 assists in a single game for the Cardinals. He finished with 27 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds, shot 9 of 15 from the field, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 0 of 1 from the three-point arc. But he was not only spectacular in the stat sheet, but from an aspect of running the offense, it looked smoother. It looked more cohesive. And I feel like we need to have the discussion as to why Johnson should be running the show for the Cardinals at point guard for the remainder of the year. You could say, well, it was just one game. Does one game really constitute switching up the offensive flow? For starters, coming into this performance, the Cardinals were 6-15. Changing up the offense probably isn't the worst idea out there. But I said it before the year that I felt like Ty-Laur Johnson was the most, or had the best court vision on the team. In fact, I felt like preseason, his court vision alone was going to allow him to see significant minutes for this team throughout the year. He had a little bit of an up and down stretch in the first part of the season, and I think that can be contributed to, number one, him being a freshman. That happens for freshmen, right? But also, it took a little bit for him to be ruled eligible, so he got a little bit of a later start and sort of set the timeline back a little bit. But since he's been able to play, he has shown moments and flashes of him being the best true overall point guard on the team. And this is no disrespect to Sky Clark at all. Johnson rose up in the absence of Clark, in the absence of Hersey Miller, both who are dealing with injury and health issues. And the Cardinals needed a point guard. Johnson didn't start this game, as a matter of fact, Curtis Williams, Trey White, Mike James, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, Caleb Glenn all got the starting nods for the Cardinals, but Johnson played all but 2 minutes. He got into the game early on, and he just did not sit. He got the keys to the offense early on, and he did not look back. It wasn't so much that he was scoring, it was that he was making the right reads, he was dropping dimes, and he was just overall keeping the ball moving. This offense at times, I feel like, is very ISO heavy. And it wasn't that way for Johnson or for the offense on Saturday evening. The ball was moving. You saw unselfish play on that end of the court. And another aspect that I really, really enjoyed watching was Johnson, once he got the ball on the opposite end of the court, he flew down the court. Multiple times he got past and absolutely blew by the Florida State defense. And Florida State is a very lengthy, athletic team, and it felt like this was a good matchup for the team because of the length that the Cardinals have, especially, in the wings, at the 4, etc. But nonetheless, Johnson's ability to make the reads that no one else on the roster can make, and that look, people will say, well, that you're just saying that, Sky Clark isn't a point guard or, no one else can pass the ball. I'm not saying that. First of all, I do feel like Sky Clark benefits more so as the off-ball guard because it allows him to focus on scoring to where, he doesn't really have to be used as a traditional point guard. I feel like he's more of a 2 guard than he is a point guard anyway. But overall, Clark averages 2.9 assists per contest. He averages 2.9 turnovers per contest. So the assist to turnover ratio would suggest that maybe he would be better in an off-ball role. And when you have a player like Ty-Laur Johnson, excuse me, that coming out of high school was known for his passing ability, was known for his ability to facilitate and have solid vision. He made some passes on Saturday that I'm like, whoa, I haven't seen a freshman perform in that manner. I mean, maybe since like Russ Smith. I'm trying to go back and think of when a freshman had a game as good as that. Maybe, maybe my memory isn't really serving me all that well. Maybe there were some times where Wayne Blackshear had a good freshman performance. I'm not really sure at this point, but it was one of the best in recent memory from a freshman. One of the best performances truly in program history individually. Like I mentioned, first player in program history to have 25 points and 10 assists. He was extremely efficient. I felt like at times he has tried to do a little bit too much on the offensive end. He allowed the game to come to him. He got downhill. He finished around the rim. He's got that explosive first step that if you're not careful, he'll blow by you. And then couple that with his passing clinic that he put on Saturday, and he was solid defensively, solid on-ball defender. I thought he crashed the rebounds well, or crashed the boards well, etc. Overall, the conversation needs to be had, and there's no downside to implementing this because at this point you're playing for pride. You're playing to try to show some improvement throughout the rest of the year. You're 7-15. If you won out for the rest of the year, excluding the conference tournament, you're still not even going to be on the bubble. So why not try something new? Why not try something to try to manufacture some positivity and to manufacture some wins throughout the rest of the year? There should be no reason that when Sky Clark comes back that Ty-Laur Johnson is not running the show. I'm not saying that Clark should be benched. I'm saying his role should change. He should be focused more so on scoring the ball as an off-ball scorer and being a secondary ball handler. Because I like the pace when Johnson is the point guard. It's quicker. It is a situation to where he's able to make the reads faster. And it catches defenses off guard. I am not opposed to Clark bringing the ball up the court here and there and when Johnson's not on the court, but we should revisit Johnson and Clark starting together. But the ball should be in Johnson's hands more often than not. Clark should be utilized as a secondary off-ball handler and allowing him. I think that this honestly does more for Clark. I think that this puts him into a better position to succeed. It takes away some of the headaches of having to manufacture and facilitate the ball and get to a spot to where you are having to be the point guard as well, while also being the Cardinals' second leading scorer at 12.8 points per game. So I like this opportunity now to be able to transition to a better solution for the Cards on the offensive side of the ball. But Johnson wasn't the only bright spot for the team in the win over Florida State. They had 4 players score at least 18 points per game. One key statistic is something that directly points to the victory, in my opinion. We're going to talk about what that is here momentarily after we talk about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to qualify or you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professional for your team faster and for free. It's not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to find the hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. 4 players scoring at least 18 points for Louisville in the 101-92 victory over Florida State on Saturday evening. Obviously, we just talked about one of those players. That's Ty-Laur Johnson. But other than him, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield had a game-high 29 points. He also chipped in 7 rebounds. Curtis Williams got the start, 19 points, shooting 5 of 13 from the field, a perfect 7 of 7 from the free throw line. And Mike James was 2 of 6 from the field, but 14 of 19 from the free throw line, 18 total points for the Cardinals' leading scorers. So I love that it was a balanced effort for this team, and offensively, the team exploded. I think a lot of that can be contributed to how well Ty-Laur Johnson led this offense in 38 minutes of play, but Brandon Huntley-Hatfield was spectacular. Truthfully, I think that Brandon, the way that he's performed over the past couple of months, I know that the overall statistics won't really show it. 11.6 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, shooting the ball 56% from the field. I don't feel like we are giving enough attention to how good he has been. And this has really been also, impressive because of the lack of a true point guard or of true point guard play over the past season or so as well. So I like what he's been able to do. He's been efficient around the rim. He's been assertive. Early on in the year, that wasn't the case. He wasn't really imposing his will. He was not going up strong. The effort seemed like it wasn't there. And then something switched just like that. And he became more assertive around the paint. He got the ball in his spot, delivered a solid post move more often than not, and scored the ball. He's 56% from the field. And I don't feel like he's getting enough credit. I feel like the losses are sort of overshadowing what he has been able to do. Huntley-Hatfield, one of his more fantastic performances this game against Florida State, he was 11 of 15, 29 points, and 7 rebounds. Mike James recorded 12 fouls against Florida State. He was 14-19 from the free throw line. This game was wild. 80 total free throws. I don't really like a ref show. I think that the game lasted comparably to a Louisville football game. It was like a 3-hour game, 8 o'clock tip-off, concluded at like 10:45. 80 total free throws, 45 for the Cardinals, 35 for Florida State. But I applaud Louisville's effort at getting into the lane and forcing Florida State to foul. Mike James got 12 fouls by himself. Absolutely wild to think of, but he finished with 18. This movement of youth with Ty-Laur Johnson, Curtis Williams, and Caleb Glenn has directly contributed to Louisville improving here and there throughout the 2024 calendar year. Now you have to get the wins, so improvement is sort of empty calories without the wins. But Ty-Laur Johnson has been playing well. Curtis Williams has been playing well too. He had 19 points in this game. He started the game, played very, very well. This was a career high for Curtis. He's had a couple of games through ACC play to where he had double figures scoring in 4 straight games, and then he had a couple of games where he wasn't really all that good. But he bounced back with a very good game against Florida State, had 19 points. And I think that it goes to show you that Louisville playing the younger guys more minutes, there's really no downside to that for the remainder of the year because, like I said, you're sort of playing for pride at this point. You're playing to show improvement. You're sitting at 7-15. If you were to win out the rest of the regular season, you would be 16-15. And unless you won the conference tournament, you're not even going to make the tournament. You're probably not even on the bubble. So what is the point in not making some changes, seeing what works, and trying to manufacture some positivity, some confidence, get some wins? It was a nice victory against Florida State. You put up over 100 points, which is wild to even think about. And one of the reasons why I believe that is, look at the overall just look at the overall assist numbers. You had 13 assists, 11 of those coming from Ty-Laur Johnson. Having a true point guard on the team, I feel like, or having not saying a true point guard on the team, having a true point guard on the court, being able to lead the offense really, really is a direct association with how well Louisville was able to move the ball. Another reason why Louisville was able to have so much success is, number one, causing turnovers. They caused 18 turnovers from Florida State. And the points off turnovers. They had more points off turnovers than Florida State, 22-19, which was solid. They have to limit the turnovers. Once again, had a negative assist-to-turnover ratio, which has to change. But I think that is one of the reasons why this game was the way it was the way that they were able to create turnovers and overall score off of those turnovers. But you scored 101 points and you only won by 9. Goes to show you that the defense, for lack of better intents and purposes, just has to be getting better. It has to be getting better. It has to improve. Giving up 92 points. Winning is great. But when you win and score 100 and you give up 92, it sort of takes away a little bit of the encouragement around that win. Granted, a win is a win is a win. And at the end of the day, it's all about wins and losses. But the offensive explosion was great. When Sky Clark comes back, I want to see him get involved. And also something that surprises me was Trey White did not score. He affected the game in different ways. He had 7 rebounds. he played better defense than what we've seen from him. He was 0 of 2 from the field, had 0 points. You tell me that Louisville scores 100 points without having Trey White and Sky Clark score a single point? Extremely impressive to me. There's some solid positives to pull away from this performance, don't get me wrong. However, still some things that need to improve. The Cardinals are back in action on the road at Syracuse on Saturday. Syracuse just got blown out to Wake Forest and will be looking to get back into the win column as they sort of look to try to boost their tournament resume. I want to see Louisville go on a winning streak. They will have a great opportunity to showcase that offensive prowess on Wednesday evening. They need to play better defense. They need to be better in terms of not turning the basketball over. But nonetheless, some positive signs from the game against Florida State. But for the remainder of the show, we go to the women's basketball side of things, where Jeff Walz's team extended their winning streak, extended their time at the top of the ACC, and got a key ranked victory over a conference opponent in Syracuse. We'll talk about that here momentarily after we talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl week to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. My favorite thing about Super Bowl, not only are the commercials, but the Super Bowl squares. A lot of people have families that get into the Super Bowl squares, which for me, honestly, it's sort of a very closed-minded way of betting. You don't have many ways to win. FanDuel has taken away that closed-minded betting and replaced it with a bunch of opportunities to win big to conclude the football year. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets on which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Final segment of the show, we're discussing the women's basketball victory over Syracuse. Louisville needed a resume-boosting win. The first portion of the ACC schedule was definitely not as star-studded as what we're about to go into. At the end of the day, you have to handle business, which Louisville did more often than not. Only one loss in the month of January. That came on the road against the only conference opponent they played in January, UNC. They bounced back with 2 blowout victories over Boston College and Pittsburgh at home. They concluded the 3-game homestand with a 81-69 victory over the 21-ranked Syracuse Orange. For me, this win continually pushed the narrative that Louisville is a very balanced team. They don't have that true #1 scorer, although Kiki Jefferson is sort of in that territory. Only got 6 bench points, which was sort of concerning to me. They need to get more from the bench. However, 4 starters in double figures, led by Kiki Jefferson. She had 21 points, 50% from the field. The big story for me, however, was sophomore forward Nyla Harris. 18-point, 14-rebound double-double. She was 5 of 7 from the field, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. Harris has been taking that next step forward for the Cardinals and has overall jumped into, I feel like, an Olivia Cochran type of development to where she's at 10 points, 6 rebounds per game, shooting 57% from the field. And when Nyla Harris is on is when I feel like Louisville is playing their best ball. Could have had all 5 starters in double figures. Olivia Cochran had 9 points and 9 rebounds. Nina Rickards, 14 points, 6 of 9 from the field. Sydney Taylor, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Louisville, not great from the three-point line, 3 of 13 overall, but they were able to manufacture some solid offense while holding Syracuse to under 70 points. Gritty, hard-nosed defense is sort of the calling card for a Jeff Walz-led Cardinal team. Very good defensively. They shot 50% from the field. They forced 13 turnovers. They scored 15 off of those turnovers. Louisville has to clean up, the play on the offensive end. They've got to shoot better from the three-point line, but it's nice to see them get a double-digit victory against a ranked team while having a negative assist-to-turnover ratio. Well, actually not negative. It was 16-15 while having more turnovers, I should say, while shooting the ball as poorly as they did from the three-point line. But very solid victory. Louisville, once again, alone at the top of the ACC standings. They're 8-1, 19-3 overall, ranked 16th currently. They look ahead to a challenging, brutal, if you will, slate of games for the month of February. It starts out with arguably the toughest game of the year at NC State on the road. 7 o'clock tip-off tomorrow evening against the Wolfpack. They will then have 2 consecutive ranked games. Notre Dame at home, at Syracuse, at Boston College will follow that. And then Virginia Tech is on the schedule. They conclude the month at Georgia Tech versus Virginia versus Florida State before they end the year against Notre Dame. So they're really going to be tested in the next month. We will know more about this team through the remainder of the year. A lot of solid opposition. You're looking to build that resume with some key victories, and what a better way to do that than go into NC State and get a victory. The Cardinals have really, really struggled against the Wolfpack over the past X amount of years. The Wolfpack have been the Cardinals' kryptonite. And it is a great opportunity in this 3-game stretch of ranked teams, assuming that Syracuse doesn't drop out of the rankings, which they might. They might get an opportunity to bounce back in them. But in the next calendar week, when we have another episode next Sunday, we'll know a lot more about this team because they've gotten some key victories so far. They've beaten Syracuse. They've defeated Washington. They've taken down Mississippi. They've recorded 3 ranked wins up until this point, but they theoretically have a chance to double that in the next week. So I'm really interested to see how Louisville plays, especially tomorrow. But again, against Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a very solid team, and then they will have Syracuse on the road at 11 o'clock next Sunday. So a lot to focus on for the rest of the week for the women's basketball team and the men's basketball team as a whole, basketball in general. But that's going to wrap up today's episode of the show. Heading into the week, we're going to have some football recruiting talk. The Cardinals got another offensive line commitment, some key visits for some players from the Sunshine State, and more. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up today's episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. Have a great start to your week. We'll see you right